Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking with Matthew Hunt, Automation Wolf, automationwolf.com. Matt, it's great to connect with you, and I'm looking forward to this discussion because um, content is king, and I don't think that that's going away. I think it's actually, increasing. One of the things I'm always telling clients are whatever you're doing from a content standpoint, double it, right? Because you got to keep on growing it. Automation Wolf helps busy B2B founders and CEOs scale their company sales by leveraging automation and one-to-many selling strategies. And you need a founder for an hour and a half a month to launch an avalanche of leads and sales and content. And so let's talk about that, right? Because that's the biggest thing, biggest pushback as a business coach who works with solopreneurs to Fortune companies, everything in between. The biggest, I would say, comment I get back is, I hear you, but we don't know, we don't have the time to create. We don't know what to create. We don't have the time to create. So kind of talk about that, what you do in your hour and a half.
Yeah, for sure. So most people's biggest problem really is time, not necessarily how or what to do. And so that was the problem that we looked to solve at the end of the day. So we mostly work with busy B2B, founders and CEOs, and they all suffer from the same problem that 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 most people suffer from, which is they help a lot of people do this stuff, but they can't actually do it themselves because the cobbler's kids goes with no shoe
Yeah.
syndrome, right? And so, this was something I was looking for myself to do. And so was like, okay, how do I do this? How do I create something where we can have little effort but high impact? And so what we do essentially is we create a situation where we can record and interview people with the intention of creating short form content via Zoom. We actually use like a tool called Riverside, but same
Yeah.
idea.
I was
But
just on a podcast. I was just on a podcast yesterday as a guest, and they used that technology. Easy to use. Yeah.
really easy to use. It's very
Yeah.
similar to StreamYard of what you're using right here. There's a lot of really great tools in the marketplace to be able to capture this content.
Yeah.
And since influencers and vloggers have been making low quality video very popular for 20 years, that you don't need anything more than an internet connection, a browser, maybe a $150 mic, and you're good to go. You're going to
Yeah.
look great. And so what we do is we set it up in a way that we know that we're going to be recording short form content versus long form content. And the reason why we do that is a big mistake that people make is when they're creating their short form content is they try and slice and dice their long form content, or they go out and produce long form content, but then it's too long. You got to remember, when someone shows up into a news feed like LinkedIn or any of the other social media networks, they have the intent of consuming short form content to begin
Yeah.
with, right?
Define short form. Define short form.
Short form is, for example, it'd be a minute video versus 10 minutes. So let's just think of it this way. If you go to LinkedIn and you're in procrastination mode between meetings, or maybe you're just in discovery mode because you just, for whatever reason, you want to scroll that in your evenings or early in the morning, sipping your cup of coffee, you're not there to consume long form content. If you see a video that's 10 minutes long, you're going to go, I don't really know that person. That seems like too much of a commitment. But if you see it's got a good hook and it's 60 seconds, you're like, I'll give it a chance, right?
Yeah.
Now just remember, the short form content is, the goal is to keep you top of mind or to bump you up into your long form content. So that's what short form content's really about, is staying top of mind and giving little sound bites. Now, the reason why our stuff works so well for people is because we lead with the short form intention in mind, and we do it privately. And so, as you know, everything that in life, we get rewarded publicly for those things that we practice privately. And with the magic of editing, we only have to keep the best little bits that make really nice little sound bites. And what ends up happening is all these clients become almost like media trained. They're ready for like the 6 o'clock news after they work with us for 3-4 months, but they start getting these really nice sound bites locked down about what they do and how they help people. And it ends up making them a more effective communicator at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And if you're a more effective communicator, you're a better leader to your team. You're going to close more sales. You're going to help your clients better, and you're going to attract more business. So just doing this exercise once a month, a meeting with us for an hour, is a huge benefit to them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's no different than like having a coach or anything, right? I mean, we're the sum of our daily habits, and this is one of these habits that you need to do on a monthly basis. Well, then what we do is we take that video and we slice it and dice it into the micro little snackle pieces of video content, and that video content inspires all the other formats at the end of the day, which is, things like PDF carousels, text posts, polls, images, etc., so that we can get all their content and we can send it to them. And in 30 minutes, they can either click approve or they can provide feedback, which will then update it based on that feedback. And then we syndicate it for them. So in
Yeah.
an hour and a half each month, they get all of their social media content completed, which is a really good use of most of these individuals' time, right?
Yeah.
So this is what
It sounds like you're doing audio and video. Are you doing other things from that? Are you pulling blogs? Are you pulling social icons? I just want people to get a full scope of
yeah. So
what you're doing.
we always
And then if you can just kind of touch on this, you're talking to them for an hour and a half, but do they come to the table with information? Do you know what questions to ask them to pull out? I would think people would be thinking that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So whenever a new client starts, we actually do 3 workshops before we start. And the workshops are designed to pull out their signature system, to understand their ideal buyers and all their hot buttons, like what are the fears, the frustrations, the wants, the aspirations, etc., so that we can get a good idea of what kind of content we're going to create, and it preps the prompts. Usually we come to the table with the prompts and very specific things to kickstart the questions for the clients. And because they're subject matter experts, they have no problem answering those questions when we're really specific. Now, even as we're creating the videos, the great news is it's not a long form content like a podcast, or where it's like this, where it's live and you got to get it right. We're
Right.
doing it privately. So even if we don't get it right, we'd be like, hey, there was some really good ideas, but that was like a 5-minute thing. Let's collect their thoughts. What's the hook? What's point number 1, point number 2, point number 3? How are we going to close this? Okay, cool. We got it. Great. Do another take, right? And we could just do another take. And usually on the second take, we nail it and it's really good. And anything that we didn't quite get, guess what? The magic of editing gets to cut out all the fluff, the ums, the ahs, little blanks, this and that, so that it flows really smoothly for them. And then because they had that rehearsal time, next time they're on the spot, or when it is public or long form, they're just going to have their stuff together. They just feel so much more confident to be able to deliver their message at the end of the day. So we only keep the good stuff. And then 2, they get better and better at communication.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about what you're talking about is you're making it easy, right? One thing is the fluidness of getting somebody to talk about what they do. That's what people forget of it being easier, but that's what people want. They want that free forming conversation. That's why I stopped recording these and I only do them live, because just the energy of it is, people know they're not edited. It is what it is, right? You mess up, and that's imperfection is perfection, I think, in today's world. So can you kind of talk about that? Because I think there's some people that would say, well, I need it to be perfect, and I need to invest in this, and I need to do this, and it needs to have a perfect background. Like, to me, that is not the way it needs to be now, nor in the future. I'm not saying you can't have elements of that, but the bulk of it, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, people just want good content, right? And I think they're less worried about the high production level of what it needs to look like. There's a few things that you can do that are very cost effective to just jazz it up a little bit. And so, one is, there's a really great, so I use my iPhone right here for my camera, and I use an app called Camo, and literally it's like $100 to own it permanently. And it gives you that HD quality through your iPhone or through your Android phone. Another thing is, you can just get a simple ring light that, it's like $50 on Amazon. You can see the difference here as I click this off and on.
Let me see which light you're using, because I can never find a good light. They burn out, they break. I can't find a good one.
Yeah, I don't know it off the top of my hand, but it's a large one, not a small one. And they're on Amazon. They're literally like $50. And so just having that ring light in a controlled form. And the big thing with the ring light is really, it just brightens your face so we can see you. And then it puts what's called a little bit of catch light in your eye. And the catch light is a cheat that a lot of filmmakers and industry folks use to make you look a little bit more charming. Just like when you go to a restaurant, the lights are dim and they use the candle light. Well, this is a cheat to make you look charming, right? And the third thing is a microphone. And the trick with the microphone really is the big mistake that people make all the time is they just don't have it close enough to their mouth. Like because it's always at first feels weird until you get used to it. It feels like there's this thing in your face, but after you do a few sessions with this, you get used to it and forget about it being there. And then you can get close to it. But what most people do, this is me just one hand away, but all of a sudden, if I get a foot away, it changes. If I get 2 feet away, it changes a big time on the way it sounds, right? If you just get those things right, you're going to sound great live. Now, if you're not live and you do it like us, even if you don't have a mic or you don't have any of these things,
Right.
post production can fix almost all of this stuff. So it's like
Yeah.
not an issue. You could have no mic and a big echoey sound. Well,
Yeah.
I can stick it in Descript and with one button make you sound like you're in a studio. It's
Yeah.
so you don't need to worry about those things if you're not live. But if you're live like this, then you might want to invest in $300-400 worth of equipment.
Yeah.
And you're off to the races. You're good to go.
Yeah. It's not a lot. I have a Logitech camera. I have a Yeti mic.
Yeah.
I have a YouTube. I put things on YouTube, and I have different back things. I have windows, so sometimes it depends on the time of day how my lighting is. And every light I had, will you email me the light that you recommend? Because they keep on breaking or fusing out, or I can't find a good one. But and then I used to have the huge stand-ups, but those are just too cumbersome and unnecessary today. Yeah.
No, it's got to be easy for people to use, right?
Yeah. But I agree with you. It's a very inexpensive way to do it. So let's talk about consistency, Matt, because I think people may say, all right, if I give you an hour and a half and, do I have to do this for 3 months? Do I have to do this for 6 months? My 2 cents is you have to do it forever. So how do you get people to be consistent with it?
Yeah. So most people think it's like A plus content that matters, but it isn't. It's, A plus consistency will always outperform, B plus content. You can have B plus content, but A plus consistency, and it'll always outperform it. It's always about the consistency at the end of the day. We're the sum of our daily habits, and publishing something once a day, every day is important. It's also really important the type of content that you produce when it comes to stackable content. So, I always tell people at the end of the day, you want to look at it like this. Let's just say you're playing a piano. If you only play one key on the piano, it's a really boring song. You want to play all the keys. And so we have some very simple cheats to solve this problem. So what you can do is you can follow the ACEs method. So the ACEs method just stands for this: authority, connect, engage, and show. Okay. So you can't make your content always authority content, because sometimes you can come across as a know-it-all. And remember, we only buy from people we know, like, and trust. And knowing you is being consistent. Liking you is sometimes publishing stuff that has to do with connections, which is just connection pieces or anything that hits the heart, the gut, or the funny bone. And
What is it? It's authority, consistent, education.
Nope. So here, I'll just say it again. The ACEs method stands for this: authority, connect, engage, and show. So, and most of these strategies are outwardly looking versus inward looking. So most people think the content needs to be about them. They're always thinking, I need to be the talent versus the talent scout, right? You've got it right. You are a talent scout first, and the talent second. And that's the way we want to look about it. Just
Correct.
like anytime we're talking about our customers or ideal clients, what we really want to be looking at the end of the day is we want to be the director and the director and producer of the movie that's about your customers. Always make your customers the hero of the story, right?
Correct.
So authority is just
You're just the guide. You're just the guide to get them there.
That's right. Authority is one piece. Connect is another piece, is where we lead through, the gut, the heart, or the funny bone. Engage is you going to your ideal prospects and interviewing them, or asking the questions, or starting conversations, being a good host, collaboration, co-marketing opportunities, right? At the end of the day. So you don't always have to come up with the inspiration. A lot of times it's a lot easier. Like, here I am creating the content for you on your channel because you led with, like, being a talent scout, right? And then show is just telling stories, and at the end of the day, of transformation. So you can just, like, at the end of the day, you can just show before and after, show results, show examples of how your clients have succeeded. Doing that is much better than trying to sell and beat your chest and say you're the best. So if you just follow the ACEs method and then switch it between the different formats, between video, text, images, polls, carousels, documents, and articles, you're good to go. And a lot of times once you create one, and I like to always lead with video first, it creates all the others, because that's the lead domino. The question you want to be asking is, what's the lead domino that's going to knock down all the other dominoes that don't take up any of my time? Mm-hmm. And so that's basically what we do for people. I say, hey, you show up the lead domino for 1 hour, and then we knock down all the other dominoes for you.
Yeah.
And you can just sit back and relax. That's a good use of your time, because then we're looking at effort versus impact as the filter.
Yeah. Let's talk about real quickly how you quantify results, right? Because I think, it takes time. I mean, it's the long game. There's no instant gratification. I mean, not that you can't get instant gratification from this, but it's the long game. Back in the day, I'm going to be 50 this year. So back in the day when I was, in business, when I was 23, 24, 25, you got I remember we had a PR firm, and I remember they said to us, hey, I had an internet company. They said, we may get you a piece of PR. You may get quoted in an article, or we may get you to, pen an article here, but you may not see the benefits. People may say, hey, I read it, but you may not see the business for 1 to 3 years from it. and it was true. And delayed gratification was something that every business person, I think, understood. There was an article in 2008, The Atlantic in 2008, talking about how Google is making us stupid, that delayed gratification is actually dissipating and everybody wants instant. But the game has not changed. It's still, I think, the long game. And so talk a little bit about how you shift people's perspective to just be patient and do what is right every month and just keep on doing it.
Sure. So there's a few things that I'd love to unpack on what you just said there that I think are important. So one is I want to talk about mindset. Okay. Two, I'd like to talk about leading versus lagging indicators of success. And then three, I'd like to talk about attribution, because I think that it answers all of these things that people are looking for. So the first thing is I want people to think about mindset. The challenge is most of the time, especially today, what's been really popularized since 2010 was all about outbound, and that was developed by Aaron Ross, who wrote the book Predictable Sales, who scaled Salesforce, right? And then about 2014 we had HubSpot come onto the scene, and they started talking about inbound marketing, okay, which was basically a very similar process, except for it wasn't so direct outbound at the end of the day. But both of those, inbound and outbound, at the end of the day, is very limited thinking. And we need to go back to the foundational type of thinking, which everybody's known for a long time now, that those two shiny green objects are considered old and no one's impressed by them anymore. When you do inbound or outbound marketing, you're focused on the 1 to 3% of the people who are in market, and it's all about me, and finding them and not caring about who you piss off in the process.
Yeah.
Let's say, I'll give you an example. Let's say you're a web design and development company who specializes in helping fractional CMOs and B2B coaches. Let's say you've actually figured out how to niche down. You put 1,000 of those individual ideal buyers into a room at an event, and you go to the room and you say, hey, who in this room is looking to buy a new website or a redesign of their website, or maybe a marketing funnel, because that's what you specialize in, between now and the next 90 days? Well, you're going to see that 1 to 3% of the people raise their hand. Well, what about the other 97%? What if you change the question to this? Who in this room between now and the end of their career is going to need a new website, a rebrand, or a marketing funnel? Well, the whole room's going to raise their hand. So the answer is they can all buy from you. You just can't control when, right?
Yeah.
So this is where we need to change towards the thinking of creating demand. Okay. And we need to start thinking about how do we build more community, more trust, instead of how do we get more leads and more sales? Because the byproduct of trust and community is leads and sales. And the fact is, when you have trust and community and you own it, okay, at the end of the day, then you are able at the end of the day to sell easier, even if you suck at sales, and you can charge more. So it's a mindset thing. So what you have to realize is there's 3 pillars to this system. There's short form, long form, controlled form. And so when we go from our short form, we want to throw them into our controlled form so we can shake out the 1 to 3% who are in market. Those that are not in market, we want to throw them into our controlled form, which is some sort of community environment where we can build goodwill and reciprocity with them over time. Okay. Yeah. So that covers the mindset thing. What I'd like to talk about next is really lagging and leading indicators of success. So here's the challenge. Most people are always looking at lagging indicators of success. That's too late.
Too late.
It's too late. For every one lagging indicator of success that you want to measure, you need to have 2 leading indicators of success. So what I mean by this at the end of the day is, you know who your ideal buyers are most of the time, particularly if you're in a B2B environment. Well, they're not invisible. You can make a list of them, and you can look at what are ways that we can start getting them into our marketing funnels or into our sphere of influence so that it becomes strategic partners, or they at least know who we are. And then how do we measure, how do they like us? And then, do they trust us? And if you do that, that's early leading indicators of success. The leg indicators of success is when they turn into a lead or a sale or revenue, right? That's too late. That can take years sometimes, depending on the model that you're in. You got to find out leading indicators of success that always lag or up to that. How do you discover what that is? Well, it comes back to attribution. And the problem with most software attribution, particularly with long buying cycles in B2B, is it can't measure it. The look back window is 90 days on like Google Analytics. And the same thing with all your Salesforce, your HubSpots, none of them are going to work the way you want to work. And if anything, they only show you how you got lead magnets, and half the people who are downloading your crap are not turning into customers. So you need to do two things in your business if you're in this business. One is you need to have an open field on your contact form, or when people fill it out, that's blank, that says, how did you hear about us? Let it run for a year. At the end of the year, you're going to start to notice that, oh my God, it's referrals, word of mouth. They listen to a podcast. They saw my content. And then when they get into the sales pipeline, you need to ask them three questions. The first question, again, is confirming, how did you hear about us? And manually enter it through different choices. The second is, how long have you known about us? So you can understand how long they're in your buying cycle before they're aware of you. And then the third one is, what do you remember integrating with? Like, what thing inspired you to like reached out? And they'll tell you, oh, it's this blog post, it was this podcast, it was that thing. And if you just be religious about asking those three questions and having that one form, you're going to discover the truth about what's really creating transformation for your business. And I guarantee you, it's going to ladder back to, again, things that build trust and things that build community. It's not about your shitty lead magnet.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. This was great. This was great. I really appreciate your insight and your time and everything that you are doing at Automation Wolf, automationwolf.com. Quick 30-second speed round. Favorite book and why?
Oh, geez. You know what? The first one that came to mind was The Hard Things About to Do. I can't remember the full title, but damn, it was a really good one. It was really about wartime CEOs and it's not coming to the top of my head, but that was the first one.
I read it. The Hard Things About Hard Things or something, or something like that. Yeah. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
It was from a high school teacher. I was probably 17, and I was a know-it-all kid. And he said, Matthew, God gave you 2 ears, one mouth, use them accordingly.
Yeah, I love it. Finish this sentence. One thing every person should do as a step one who's not creating enough content is?
Just get started, or find someone who can help you stay accountable.
And tell everybody how they can connect with you, Matt.
Sure. Just go to automationwolf.com. Spelled exactly the way it sounds.
Good. This was great. Think community, content is king. You got to do it, whether you like it or not, whether you don't like social or not, you got to do it. Content is critical, whatever you're doing. Once you get comfortable with it, in my opinion, you got to keep on doubling it, because attention spans are going down, and you got to create something that is value add to someone to grab their attention. I agree with you, Matt, about building community and building trust and just giving as much content as away as possible. And I think it's great. I think what you're doing is great. Automationwolf.com, think community. Matt, thanks for being on today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, John.
Thanks.